Great. I think we'll go ahead and get started then. If you'd like, go ahead and feel free to connect with video. If you'd like, it's pretty much the closest thing that we can get to being in person. This is just going to have to stay like that today. It's one of those days, you know? Let's go ahead and kick it off and hopefully jump right into some questions thereafter. You should have all gotten a copy of the press briefing, just some quick updates. There's 2 executive orders that will be going out later on today. One deals with outlining a new website or a new online home for student governance at Penn State, a history of it. Student governance has long been a tradition of the student body here at Penn State, ranging from 1906, the creation of a student board, a group of 6 students who were tasked with responding directly and reporting directly to the administration, all the way through where we are today with the UPUA. And I believe some of that history ought to be recognized, and students should know really the power of their voices and organization, their organizing power. And so I'm hopeful that that website directed to the Department of Records as a permanent responsibility will help highlight that for future years. We also have a website going, or an executive order going out, creating a Penn State 2020 time capsule. This will be called the 2020 Vision to the Past, play on the word 2020, but it gets at the idea that much was taken from us this past year, whether that be memories here at Penn State, loved ones, time with friends, whatever it may be. It's something that we'd like to leave in the past, but at the same time is so historically significant in the Penn State tradition and a story that we'd like to leave something behind. So over the next 2 weeks, we'll be encouraging students to submit different letters to their future selves. I believe the timeline that we're looking at is opening it up sometime, I want to say it's 2050, which would be 30 years from 2020. I believe that's what we had it set to. So students will be able to write themselves and their family members letters. We'll be looking to collect small mementos, the collegian articles, for example. Print, I have a copy from back from their very first spring break has been canceled issue, which I'm sure we'll include, and then some other organizations will have the opportunity to include things as well. And then the administration will help us bury it somewhere here on campus. There are quite a few new buildings that are in the works, so I'm sure they'll be stuffed somewhere in there. We're also looking at putting something out later in the week, creating a UPUA award. We have never done that before. I don't know why. The undergraduate student government used to provide an academic excellence award to advisors who essentially went above and beyond to help students through their time at Penn State. This award or awards will be geared toward students and organizations who helped make a lasting and positive change at Penn State, bringing about a more equitable future, and that can range in so many different ways. We're working out the final logistics as to how, who will ultimately decide who gets the award, but I will say the preference will be given to those not involved in the UPUA. In fact, that'll be probably a requirement, is that students, you can't be in the UPUA. We really want to make sure that we're highlighting students who are doing good work outside of just the student government, but we think it's important that they are recognized by their student government. One of the reasons I was partially late is because I just came from a meeting with university administrators. This is pretty much a monthly setup that they tend to reach out to Lexi, myself, and then the other student government executives, just to chat about kind of what's on our mind and answer any questions that we have. The first things that Lexi and I touched on included Zoom bombings, the recent incidents that we're seeing on campus, and again, encouraging that they take increased actions to protect students. It shouldn't be students' sole responsibility to create that safe environment, but rather, as I've talked about before, it should be something that's there already. It's something that students know. They're entering a Zoom room and they won't be subject to what some of these incidents have subjected students to. After some discussion, we've learned that the administration feels pretty secure with where things are. They're really trying to emphasize getting resources out to students and helping them take the actions themselves, because they also don't want to lock it down to the point where we essentially can't bring individuals from outside of the university in as well. A good example would be the fact that one of the most recent incidents essentially was an alumni event, and those alumni wouldn't have been able to join if they were Penn State users only, set as the default. Nonetheless, we're going to continue trying to find ways to ensure that things like waiting rooms are a default. That should be, to me, it's a no-brainer. Maybe there's something on the tech side that I'm missing, but I don't think there is. We have another meeting coming up tomorrow with GPSA and the Office of Student Affairs to kind of solidify what some of those actions can be moving forward. We also talked about climate action, considering that to this date, the university has not publicly responded to the climate action petition put out this time last year, actually. That's crazy, a whole year ago, calling on Penn State to take greater action to combat climate change. There are a lot of things that the petition calls for, but we've come to understand that they're working on some kind of a group or task force which will be solely responsible for finding those kinds of solutions, how they can address the asks of the petition. But I was a little disheartened to hear that it's still not formed, and that they're waiting to essentially piece it together until they have all of the nominations that they could possibly need for such a group, which makes sense. You know, we want to make sure that there are the experts in the room and that all of the facets that the petition calls for are addressed appropriately, but at the same time, I really hope to see that kind of a group come together and those concerns addressed as soon as possible. We also touched on the sexual misconduct survey, which was, for a reminder, released in 2018, but whose results are still not available publicly. They were supposed to be released certainly by now, and they have yet to be. We learned that a lot of this came from a result of understaffing within the Office of Student Conduct, but that the administration is now working to kind of go back, find that data, compile it into a digestible way, and then put it back out. Administrators got a draft report of the data from University Park specifically yesterday, and so they're on their way, well on their way to completing the rest of the Commonwealth campuses as well. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing that data come about. And I'm really grateful to the students who helped encourage that kind of a push. It was something that Lexi and I ran on, but it's something that students had noticed was a drop in the ball, if you will. They dropped the ball to a degree. And we let them know that it's okay to drop the ball every now and then, but you have to pick it back up and release the data like you committed yourself to doing. And then lastly, just touched a little bit on plans to return in the fall. They're feeling pretty optimistic about things, and so am I. The CDC guidelines just recently announced, or CDC just recently announced some relaxing guidelines from their end about people who've been fully vaccinated gathering indoors without masks in small numbers, which makes sense. And as time goes on, I'm sure that guidelines will continue to be relaxed even here on campus. But at the same time, I would imagine that the fall will, to a degree, look pretty similar. They're not, I obviously can't really ever speak for the administration, and I don't want to claim to do so, but I would imagine that they're not really sure how it will look. I don't really know how it will look beyond maybe students wearing masks. My guess is probably something that we can come to expect to see. But again, I don't want to speculate too much on that. I did touch on climate action, but I just want to briefly highlight some of the great work that Rutgers University did today. They announced that their university is divesting from fossil fuels. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but that's phenomenal. That is a huge step for the Big Ten, and something that we brought up with the administration as well today. I just want to commend President LaBelle at Rutgers University and their student association, their student assembly, for all of their hard work. I think it's some 4 years in the making that they've been pushing for reinvestment in the green economy. And really that's, a cleaner future. That's exactly what we're trying to achieve here too. I think it will take some time, but like I had mentioned earlier, I think that formation of a group to look at how they can do it is an important first step. And then lastly, you can expect an email from me pretty soon regarding Capitol Day, which is coming up on March 25th. This is the annual get-together of Penn State alumni and students to really just talk about and show up in force and show what pride we have in the university to our state legislators. Last year, serving as the chair of Gov Affairs, I helped organize it with our Lion Caucus, which is another student organization in collaboration with the Office of Government and Community Relations. Really terrific event. I do believe it'll be taking place virtually this year, so I look forward to attending, and I'll be sending something out encouraging students to register for that as well. With that, I would be happy to take any and all questions about anything that's gone on, anything that you've got on your minds. Yes, is it Phoebe?
Yeah, Phoebe. Yeah, thanks for all that info. This is my first meeting, so didn't know exactly the procedure, but yeah, so thanks for that. But I just had a quick question if you had any updates about the UPUA election process and if you had any more info about that.
Yeah, well, I can say that there have been quite a lot of students who are seeking petitions. I'm sure some of you have been reached out to by people looking to run. It was a fun time last year trying to get 500 signatures, and now I think the executives only need 150. But that's really where we are in the process. Candidates to be are just trying to seek enough signatures to be put on the ballots. Ironically, which is exactly what's happening in the primary elections too, in real life, which I think is pretty funny. And then I believe starting next week, candidates can, I want to say it's next week, start campaigning. It's typically the day after spring break ends, and spring break would have technically been this week. So I'm fairly certain that we'll start to see some campaigns pop up. I will not be running for re-election. I'll be graduating, and I'm looking forward to it. Ryan?
Zach, can you touch on a little bit what you think the benefits are for students to attend Capitol Day if they might not be directly involved in student government themselves?
Absolutely. Legislators want to hear from students, primarily students who they haven't heard from before. The state legislature's heard from me quite a lot in various letters and the like across the years, but they want to know what life is like at Penn State and know that they are making an investment in the future, not just of our lives, but really of Penn State, of the Pennsylvania Commonwealth as a whole too. Pennsylvania gives quite a lot back to the Commonwealth, and like I said, they really want to know that kind of a personal experience. When we went in person, we were asked to kind of just share what those experiences were, and even being in rooms with students I had never met before, but were just there because they knew the importance of having their voices heard, was a really unique experience, and I got to learn a lot too. You should go. Are you thinking about it?
I would go.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It'd be cool to talk about kind of all the good work that you and Onward State are up to. How about anyone else planning to go? It's going to be cool. Ethan?
Hi, Zach. I just had a quick question about the sexual misconduct survey. I was wondering if you would have an idea of what specifics within the data would be released, and what would you hope would come of this data being released to the public?
Well, I think first I hope that we can get a better handle on where and how these occurrences are happening. I think that's the biggest problem in trying to bring about change to stop them, is not knowing where they're happening. we know broad things, right? We know that the majority of sexual assaults that occur on college campuses across the country, but even here at Penn State, aren't happening from people that we don't know, but they're happening from students most often that you do know, that are often closest to you. But the smaller data, the specifics are kind of unclear. You know, the different types of, for example, harassment versus a more serious, according to the survey, a more serious offense like direct assault. You know, finding where those are happening and how we can combat them would be the biggest outcome that I'm hoping to get. And I'm hopeful that the university sees it the same way. Any other, Ethan, do you still have your hand up?
That was from last time. Thank you for reminding me though.
No worries. All right. Any other questions? Cool beans. All right, everyone. Phoebe, it was great having you for our first time. Ryan, Ethan, good seeing you again. Thanks so much. Emily, thanks for helping us get this together. And I think, again, thanks for bearing with us as we sorted out those tech problems. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Please go enjoy the weather.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
See everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Of course.